CPA, MFC and the lines. We're reversing it, talking about risk and growth in these lines. Today we're thinking about the lines of common control cycles of audit and fintech. Fintech, by definition, in my world, is about growth and the lines of prudent risk management. If you're going to work with innovation and growth, you have a duty to society to think about prudent risk management. It's a duty that's not discussed enough, but it's a relevant duty. Innovation and disruption should come with a corresponding line of maturity and accountability on the prudent risk management lines. When you come to the lines of the global economy, we're going to talk about a large model. We're not going to give away any of the specifics here. We're just going to talk about a broad model for conceptual value. Beyond that conceptual value is the line where we can all work together and fix things and work a little bit harder in the economy and financials to make sure that we've got the lines of growth and lines of risk mapped together. You look to the global economy, you think about the round 360, some average of 270 nations. You can find the exact number out there, but approximately 270. In those lines, you have the lines of free trade and growth, the lines of productive nations working together with the majority of goodwill to try and help in global problems. Trade helps in prosperity, helps supply what one nation has that another may not, and helps with the exchange of value. On other lines, there's lines where that same trade can work through industry, NGO, nonprofit, and governmental lines to help on extreme poverty alleviation, to help on expertise for health and different types of things in the global economy. So there's a lot of productive value lines, and there are also lines of risk. Risk in our world reduces the lines of VUCA risk, which is the global geopolitical risk of different countries, or event risk, or catastrophic risks that happen in the world that might just be forces of nature or man-made events. Those are lines of risk and insurance as well at that point. Then you break into the lines of cybersecurity and risk management. Those lines are about technology here that we'll discuss. And beyond those lines is another line of just societal risk, thinking of the core of value in the economy and financials and the role and duty. We all have to work together on those points, make sure that we're doing the best we can. In the global economy, we're going to think about data. So this is about data lines. Data is about the stakeholders, individuals and families, ultimately, from the way we look at it. The individuals and families commit data to the global economy, and if you think about the aggregate knowledge of everyone in the world talking about the economy and financials, talking about teamwork and the needs where societal entities bring value or where individual families are building value together, there is around 360 of global knowledge, some finite population of communicated, all the communicated information in the world. Within that population lies a subset of the inclusive data, which is data banked to technology, and there's the excluded data, which is data might be going on the person-to-person communications lines, on the old-fashioned mail lines, but it wouldn't be in these lines of technology, which is what we're going to discuss. So in the inclusive lines of technology capturing communications and message on the economy and financials, there becomes a population of data. That data includes the OCR data, includes audio and visual data, and includes the email data within that OCR definition, because email is a part of the economic data and a part of the understanding the world as it goes round. Technology has the communications lines, the global economy probably in the majority to some larger than 50% share. If you want to estimate, let's say that maybe 70 to 80%, but that's not a fact, that's just a rough estimate, and somebody out there has those exact numbers, and we'll come back to that later with more realistic numbers. When you look at that, you're thinking about the lines of ICT and tech, financials, financials in the global economy, communications, and then ICT tech are the conduit lines where people use technology to communicate, so a relevant line becomes communications in the lines and how they fit together. And you think about the input controls, because as data is getting mapped to technology, there's a first line of input controls. Do you want the data? Is it relevant data? Is it value added? And if you've got garbage in, you will get garbage out. So the best thing to do is make sure in your entry-level control data, there's controls about the data that you pick up and how that goes into the economy and financials, the universality of data, and all those other type of things that exist. This is kind of a common global theory, so we're not getting into all the different lines of computer languages and interoperability. We're just saying if you got into technology, you're in the world pool of knowledge, and this is where we start. So the individual family lines, individuals and families are local, regional, state, multi-state, national citizen stakeholders. They serve by a representative government at home, or they have elected representative government at home, or they have other lines of government which may be similar or dissimilar abroad. Ideally, it's the lines where people are allowed to pursue their life and their freedom and growth, the rights of family, and those type of things, but we're talking in the aggregate about the global economy, so there's lines where that's not always true, or there may be some factors of risk. When we look at the global economy, we think about the lines of industry, government, NGOs, nonprofits, and supporting individuals and families. They are the amalgamation of resources for one purpose or another, and the agreement of individual families that these entities can in fact exist, if not through direct permissions, through governmental permissions, that there's a societal value for an entity to exist, or for an NGO or nonprofit to exist in that theater. The government basically is the line of structure representative of the individuals and families, or appointed to govern individuals and families, which provides the overarching structure. All of these lines have a need for data and controls, and when you start to think about those controls, we work on 3 lines. That's the audit controls for internal and external lines, both financial and operational, risk management, risk assessment, and those IT controls you would expect in the hardware, software, access, and communications lines. We think about those lines because in this global economy, on the lines of data is committed when transactions or communications occur. That data goes into data tables in one manner or the form. Not 100% of the data, but some of the data is today used in the economy and financials. That data is then in turn used to populate data tables that support financials and reporting, that support calculations run off the data, and that could meet the books and records and financial requirements. In the end, you've got a cycle of validation of results in the framework where audit and risk management helps in technology and communication lines. I'm Dean Carson. We're here to help in technology.